Harry Potter fans around the world rejoiced at the news that HBO and Warner Brothers were going to be taking all 7 of J.K. Rowling's masterworks and extrapolating them out, giving them the HBO treatment in the way that the films never could, really delving into the source material. Because from friends that I have and from sources out there that say that there is so much more context and nuance and hell, even just, whole plot lines that were taken out in order to make these 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 page tomes into manageable 2.5, 3 hour long movies. There was a bunch of stuff that needed to get cut, but when you're having 8 to 10, maybe even 12 episode long seasons to dedicate to individual books, you can do everything properly. And this could be, okay, kind of like we've seen this take place in other mediums where you can properly expound upon a concept, expound upon material that's familiar to other people, but by using a different delivery mechanism, you can do something really spectacular. And this was a Harry Potter fan's greatest wish, myself included. As much as I like most of those films, I would very much like to see what I'm missing out, okay? In the context of The Lord of the Rings and all of those additional texts, as I've gotten more information on what I'm missing out about and the first and the second ages, the more I despise what Amazon has done with the Rings of Power, what Warner Brothers is also doing with its spin-off movies, War of the Rohirrim, just how cool the story of Helm Hammerhand could have been, but instead, no, we'll make it all about his daughter. Remember that film came out at the end of last year? That's right, nobody does. But I guess a little silver lining on that is The Hunt for Gollum has been delayed for a year, which is just even more pathetic because, okay, cool. Andy Serkis, Viggo Mortensen, and Ian McKellen are going to be an extra year older before you guys even go into production at this point in time. Don't even bother, man. Okay, but there is so many interesting, fantastic, spectacular stories that you could tell. I just don't trust anybody in Hollywood right now. So, of course, when you hear that HBO is going to be working on a Harry Potter series, on one hand, that's awesome. This is the best way to do it, man. One book per season. That's awesome. But then you also have to couch this in, oh God, it's current era. It's also Warner Brothers, one of the dumbest companies, if not the dumbest company in all of entertainment. How are they going to manage to mess this up? Cast your minds back a few months to the beginning of December, and then you started to hear some casting rumors. You started to hear some prospective names for Dumbledore, for Voldemort, for McGonagall, and then you heard the one for Snape, Paapa Essiedu, and everybody and their mother just nearly gave themselves whiplash when their head snapped to the side going, I beg your pardon? You're doing the thing to Snape that is a meme. Why would you do that, okay? But we were assured, okay? And because there was no real follow-up in the very short term, this was one of those rumors, because there were a few other names that were thrown out there in regards to Dumbledore that didn't end up coming true. It ended up being with John Lithgow. He has since confirmed it, even though we haven't heard anything official from Warner Brothers, and that is all very likely to change because, oh boy, this right here, this has definitely sparked some responses because, while we don't have the official casting so far for the Trinity, for Harry, Hermione, or for Ron, now we're starting to put some pieces together for the rest of the supporting cast at Hogwarts, and well, one is good. The other is, I don't know, it right there just signals that this is not a serious show. Okay, and no, I'm not talking about Black either. Well, kind of, but you get where I'm going with that one. But Harry Potter, Janet McTeer, in negotiations to play McGonagall, Paapa Essiedu, near deal to play Snape in HBO series. And I find this hilarious, right? Like, you got a picture of, Maggie Smith as McGonagall, okay? It's like, that's... I mean, you put her in some older age makeup or, maybe don't put on so much makeup and it's good casting over there. And then you got Snape. And it's like, I find it very funny that they got a high contrast picture of Alan Rickman's Snape, who I didn't know this at the time, but they were fans of the books when the films were just coming out, and they were deriding the casting of Alan Rickman because he was, in their words, too attractive for the role. Also, he was potentially a little bit too old for the role. But honestly, I mean, those Harry Potter movies, the casting was excellent. Even the ones that they had to recast for, like when Richard Harris passed away because he could only be Dumbledore for the first 3 movies, I think. Michael Gambon played a blinder in the rest of the series. You really couldn't imagine anybody else doing a better job than that. Like, all the casting, up and down the board was perfect. Absolutely perfect. But this time around, it's like, what are you doing? What on God's green earth are you doing? Like, this makes no sense at all. Okay. I think due to the fact that there's some less than stellar supplemental material that has come out of the Harry Potter world in recent years, people were kind of resigned to the fact that, either Hermione or Ron were going to end up getting swapped in some form or fashion, and a lot of that stems from that stage play. What is it? Cursed Child? Is that the stage play where Hermione was black? And it's like, that's very interesting why you need to do all of that stuff. The common rejoinder from the crowd that would go ahead and support changes like that is, oh, it doesn't matter. Why do you care so much about it? It's like, interesting. If it doesn't matter so much, why can't Hermione be white? She's described as white in the books, and same with Ron, and same with Harry. And it's all very much laid out there for the world to see. But when you see a Snape, somebody who, outside of like Harry Potter, people far more familiar with the text would be able to back this up. Outside of Harry himself, probably has the most vivid depictions of his looks, and none of it says anything about peering out from behind his jerry curl. But HBO is closing in on 2 more main cast members for its high-profile series adaptation of the hugely popular Harry Potter fantasy books. Oscar and Emmy-nominated actress Janet McTeer is in negotiations to play Professor Minerva McGonagall. Sources told Deadline. Additionally, Emmy nominee Paapa Essiedu, fantastic stuff, one of the first actors identified for the series, is closing in on a deal to portray Professor Severus Snape. They are poised to join John Lithgow, who, as the Deadline reported exclusively, will be playing Professor Albus Dumbledore. Now, here's the thing. I don't know a damn thing about McTeer, okay? Maybe she's great. She has the credentials for it, and John Lithgow, he's kind of a legend. So for him to break the barrier of being the first American-born actor to land a major role in a Harry Potter film, Harry Potter proper, not in any of those Fantastic Beasts movies, which are of quality. He's made somewhat of a career playing British characters before, so it kind of makes sense, I guess. So you can go ahead and say that, hey, based on merit, they ended up securing those roles. What about Essiedu? Okay, you're telling me because apparently you want to play fast and loose with the source material, even though this was supposed to be a more accurate to the books adaptation. Who's the best person that you had available? I highly doubt it. We know exactly why he picked this. And this is something that Warner Brothers got away with before. Okay, for a series that I'm far more familiar with, House of the Dragon, there is a character in that show, Corlys of Valerion, rather. There's Valerion, Valeria, and Valerian, but he's Valerion. The Sea Snake, okay? One of the most accomplished self-made men, one of the coolest characters in the book. So, of course, they made him black and everybody just rolled their eyes. And while you can make it make sense in the show, it's not necessary that he got race changed. And yeah, it does add a unique wrinkle to the story being told on the screen. It's a story that has a very heavy emphasis on bloodlines, succession, and not a lot of diversity in that pool, especially when you're dealing with Targaryens. Definitely not a lot of genetic diversity either. They like to keep it in the family. If you know, you know. But yeah, you could hand wave it away, and frankly, I don't mind the change. And Corlys is a hell of a good character. I forget that Steve Toussaint. I think, yeah, Steve Toussaint's the name of the actor, and he does a fantastic job in the role. And his skin color, does play favorably in the story being told there, and ends up reflecting, or at least it should reflect very poorly on another major character, but the way that some stupid writers, Sarah Hess looking directly at you absolute tard, the way that she just has this undying femme boner for Rhaenyra, and the way that she writes her, it never ends up really reflecting too terribly poorly on her. Even though it really should, especially if you're supposed to have legitimate heirs, but I digress. See, that's something that you could have much more of a nuanced conversation about. This right here, this is just, oh yeah, we got Snape, we're going to make him black. So it's like, okay, cool. So when James Potter and Sirius Black, if you're going to be accurate to the source material, decides to hang Severus by his pant loops from a tree, you get to do your heavy-handed political allegory. You get to have the black guy having the big old redemption arc in the 6th season, or rather he gets the climactic event and he gets an entire season basically dedicated to his character, only to, yes, be redeemed right there at the end with, in the movies, one of the most emotionally, if not the most emotionally impactful confrontation in the films. You get to go ahead and give that to a black guy. At this point in time, I wouldn't be surprised if Hermione isn't Indian. I wouldn't be surprised. Just do it. I beg you, just do it. Make the Weasleys all black. Just do it. Just do it. Okay, make them all African immigrants and just make it a big allegory for that. Because at this point in time, I'm about done with this show. I was already on the edge when it came to John Lithgow because I want this to be a British story with British actors. Okay, he might do a great job. I'd imagine John Lithgow's going to be great. But even if Paapa Essiedu, which is just, Severus Snape, who has been time and time again, and we'll just go ahead, okay, because I could say that, he's been described several times in the books, but it's like, how on the nose is this? And noses play a very important role in this, but Snape's pale face, this is from the Half-Blood Prince, okay, Snape's pale face, illuminated by the flaming cabin, was suffused with hatred, just as it had been before he had cursed the Dumbledore. You dare use my own spells against me, Potter? How was I? Oh, it was who I invented them. I, the Half-Blood Prince. Spoiler, I guess, for a book that's over a decade old. I actually went to the midnight premiere of this movie because, I used to be a big fan of this stuff. It's been a minute since I've watched the films, and at this point in time, this just completely and totally dissuades me because how? Okay, if hardcore fans, it's kind of like how hardcore fans, The Lord of the Rings, didn't like the fact that, Eowyn, took the role that Glorfindel had, saving Frodo and taking him to Rivendell after he got stabbed by the Morgul Blade. Didn't like those changes and were steadfast against Fellowship because of that. And also, thankfully, potentially they lobbied to make the change and not to have her appear at Helm's Deep, which would have been very stupid anyways, but having Haldir there instead break the elves, it's like, that was a change, but there are some changes that you can make to source material that's totally fine that can go ahead and enhance. This right here doesn't at all. Alan Rickman, for as close as you can get, for as well as Severus has been detailed in the books, because you even have sketches by J.K. Rowling herself depicting what Severus looks like several times over. Bunch of different changes, and I'll be completely honest. Okay, well, it's not exactly a one-to-one, but Alan Rickman looks a hell of a lot more like those pictures right there than Paapa Essiedu just walking off of a black GQ photo shoot would look at all. It's like this right here, man, it speaks to intention, right? Because Warner Brothers, what are they prioritizing? Clearly, if this is going to be one of their first big leaks that's out there, because no, this isn't one of those, casting decisions in the background, okay? This isn't we need to just add, this is being made for a modern audience. Prior to the MCU, I'm pretty sure, okay, when it comes to dollars and cents, the Harry Potter movies, that was the biggest cinematic franchise in terms of revenue that was out there. It made over $5-6 billion at the box office. It was huge. Still is huge to this very day. Why are you trying to appeal to an audience that has been clearly shown time and time again to not financially support your project? You're trying to make plays to a group that is never going to sign up for HBO. They might pirate your shit, but in more likelihood, they're just going to watch clips on HBO and then just make weird ships, because that's all these fucking freaks do. I'm so tight about this, man. I wanted this show to be good. I've talked about it time and time again. But no, Warner Brothers is going to be stupid. They're going to continue to make all of these dumb and egregious changes, and if this is what they're focused on, being faithful and adapting the source material is the furthest thing from their fucking mind. You were hoping for something like Peter Jackson's trilogy for this series, but in reality, you're going to be getting Rings of Power. I can't wait. I can't wait for Harry Potter to be led around by his nose. Not his hook nose like Snape, because he's not going to have that anymore. I just can't wait for Hermione to actually be the lead character of the Harry Potter series. I just can't wait for that shit. Oh, how everything's going to be possible only because of that mud blood, or if she gets my fan casting, poop blood. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. Why don't you follow your gut and get after it? Forgot my own name, for God's sake. See, I'm just so messed up about this. Take care, everyone.